All right, those two reports there, but back in the studio, I'd like us to examine a number of those areas talked about, agriculture, education, health, and security. Let's look at agriculture, for instance, and this against the background of current realities where there are threats of food shortages, high cost of high prices, food being almost priced out of the reach of the of average families. And yet, in agriculture, both federal and states are key players. But we see a situation where just about everything except for some few sub-nationals is often left to the center.
Yeah, well, sadly, yes. But you see, I have to digress a little what Dr. Abayomi said and what the prof here said before I come to this. This is a broad topic. When we speak about Nigeria now, I think all of us are to blame, everybody, whether the sub-regional government, the national government, and so on. We, the people of this country, need to have a conversation that, look, if we love our country, there are certain things that we need to take as a people. One, leadership by example from like President Ashwaju. Tomorrow, for him to come out and say, from today, I will always be in Adire. That's made in Nigeria product. The furniture, what we eat, whatever. So we have to start from that level where the leadership will lead by example. Then the government can come and say, look, even if you have money, you cannot use your money to go and import wigs that you will use on your hair, or to import conflicts into this country, or to bring anything like this thing we're wearing now. Probably there should be a conversation that, look, okay, from today, everybody, whatever you have imported, keep it. From today, the government shall not allow imported goods into this country. So if we as a people of this country agree to that, leadership by example, we hold our leaders accountable because the constitution of this country speaks from both sides of its cheek. The local government in one place, they are under the state. In another, the local governments are independent. So you find out that you don't even know whom to hold responsible of what. That is why the state governments see federal government as Father Christmas. If Kano State Governor was in Abuja about 2 days ago or so, or in Kano, that President Ashwaju should please bring food to Kano people. That kind of a thing. It is not Ashwaju's problem to bring food to Kano people. Absolutely. The governor of Kano, Jigawa, other states also need to put things in place that the people of the state can grow their own food and so on. So if everybody comes say federal government, it's not going to work. So in talking about Nigeria, yes, we need to have conversation. That conversation is necessary, but then have we exhausted the constitution we have now? We've not. We've not utilized it to the fullest because why the states, because of the way the constitution is, that's why the state governments can tell you that the problem of security is federal government. Yes, to some extent, but look, it is our country. You don't sit down and say, look, if armed robbers come and attack me, I'm waiting for the police. If the police don't come, nothing happens. So we also, as the people, have to agree that, look, you will not allow governor to do whatever he wants. Because when you ask governor to give you money, or when you ask member of National Assembly or State Assembly to give you money, instead of asking them what they are supposed to do to better your lives, you don't do that. And then you look at the government waiting for the government to do everything for you. So these conversations, we have to talk along the line of national responsibility. We need to have discussion that there should be a patriotic zeal, patriotic conversation to our country, loving our leaders, holding them accountable. If any leader does not, just like what my brother said, government houses, state assemblies are extension of government houses. You find out that this constitution is so expensive for us to run. So these are the kind of things that, look, if we don't make sure we do what we think is right for us, we'll continue in this quagmire. 2 days ago, or yesterday, my senior brother Adams Oshomole, was blaming President Buhari for certain things. When will Nigerians stop blaming one another? When? What is the difference between Buhari and Tinubu? The same party, same government. So why should politicians come and start blaming one another? Instead of politicians to make sure, look, any government that it's not doing well, whether APC, PDP, because Nigeria is first, but you don't blame somebody for the woes of the country now. We all are to blame. Now, why are we all to blame? Because things happen, and so many things happen under Buhari, and nobody said anything. So now, Tinubu is there, things are happening, nobody is saying anything. So when Tinubu leaves, they will say, well, it's the problem of Tinubu. No, the problem is us, we Nigerians. I agree completely with Dr. Abayemi. We need to have conversation in this country. Whether do we even want to be one Nigeria or not? Because as of today, honestly, this conversation is necessary so that there are some states that are probably appendages in this country.
But Nigeria has always had these conversations. We call them constitutional conference.
Yeah, but we've now had a serious one.
National conference.
Now, because of the problem we are in,
because of
the problem we are in, which means we must have, because look, a bag of rice today is how much? How much was it last year? And these things are reality. So the sooner we discuss these things and ensure, so we don't even say the problem is for state government or federal government. We, the people of this country, I think we are all to blame.
Elder Chuba.
Yes, thank you very much. You see, the agric or farming in Nigeria is almost grinding to a halt. That is both subsistence or mechanized farming. Most people have abandoned their farms. They can't go to the farm because of the security situation. Now, the federal government is in charge of security. But I think that we should think of a new way of looking at the security issues in Nigeria. And I want to say it, that if we take a bold step and have state, local, and local government police within the next 1 year, all this banditry, kidnapping will be reduced to the barest minimum. Now, take for instance, we have state police, we have local government police. We have 774 local government. Let today a recruitment of 200 people, 300 young men into security in the local government of a place, of any local government. And this local government, they are armed. If anything happens, they face it locally first. And then if it is beyond their strength, the state police comes in. If it is beyond they bring it. And there is, immediately things will go down. Now, in my state, in Omala, the herdsmen have taken over about 3 communities. They are the one harvesting their farm product and bringing it to the market of the same people to buy. If there is a local government security arrangement before today, will that happen? It will be difficult, because nobody that will have gone will sit back to watch his land taken away. No community will do that. But because these people are armed and they are not armed, they cannot face them. And if this militia knows that every community now is armed, where would they go and fight? They will not. So our leaders knows what is going on, and something has to be done. Closely related to that is the fact that most of these governors, they have taken loan from CBN and other agricultural bodies in the country. What have they done with it? How many states has farm? How many states have silos where they keep grains and other things? There's nothing like that. The money is borrowed and stolen. And nobody asks questions. If you dare talk, you become a subject of attack and death. If you are a member of the state assembly and you say, oh, you borrowed so amount, well, what have you done with it? You are suspended from that assembly. You are expelled finally from that assembly. Somebody elected by his people. Somebody who is supposed to act as a watchdog of the society. You are sent away from the state assembly. If you come there, the tongue of the governor will beat you to death. A complete abuse of the constitution. And nothing happens to that governor. He swings around. So these are the things that are happening that is making living in Nigeria extremely difficult. The rise in prices, the devaluation of the naira is not an overnight thing. It's a thing that has started, taking place for a long time. It has built up to the level now where everybody knows. Even the local woman in the village knows that there is trouble in this country now. There's food crisis, there's security crisis, there's unemployment crisis, hunger and starvation is facing Nigeria. And this is where we are. So the federal government should call for a conversation where we will now split security into local governments, state, and at the federal. Let us recruit our youths into this system to face these bandits so that we can have our peace. Because if these bandits do not leave these agrarian places where they are occupying or where they are doing their mining, then there's no way that things can get better. The barns, the silos will continue to get empty. And in no time, criminality will increase along the line.
If I might just ask this, what inputs, speaking of security now, do you think that the states can bring in? Everyone is aware that state governments, often have what they call security votes. What is it deployed to, and how can they come in the fight against insecurity? If we agree that it's a federal government thing, but what role can states play in that?
Yes, state can play a lot of role. In the first place, when we talk about security votes, can you tell me how much is the security vote of the governor of Lagos?
He was a deputy governor, so probably.
Can you tell me what is the security vote of the governor of Benue? It's a thing that most governors discretionarily allocate to themselves.
Well,
this
like
is a fact.
Honorable Farouk said, you would be in a position to tell us.
Governors discretionarily allocate to themselves. This is my security vote. And then it becomes his security vote. And maybe he has approved for himself. There is no standard. There's no standard. And so maybe he takes $1 billion naira, then he gives 2 million to his deputy. And that is all.
And what's it deployed to?
So
what are those funds deployed to?
Now, these security votes are squandered by the governors. So if we now have...
And their deputies.
Yes, and their deputies, you can say so. But most times the deputies do not know at all. So if the state has police and state assembly now vote this, governor's security vote should be a thing that is legislated upon and given, and not just anyhow spending. Now, if these monies are deployed, take for instance, the cost of an AK-47, I do not know what it is. Let's say, for instance, it's 500,000 or $1 million naira. And in each local government, we have at least 50 to 100 of it. Which bandit will come and live in that local government and survive? And how much does this cost? So all the money that is being stolen, if it's directed to this project, I tell you, 1 year, this security problem will go under. And this security problem continues to grow because some are benefiting from it. The more the trouble grows, the more their pocket swells. So, but if we distribute it down and there is a flow to the local councils, I'm telling you, after 1 year, there will be peace. And the people will be able to go to farm. We will now begin to have enough food available in the market, which will force the prices down. But for now, most people can't go to farm, and that is where the problem is.
All right, Prof, let's link this up with the question of education, well, economic development. And you spoke about human resources development, manpower development. A lot of times, Nigerians would say, perhaps the states do not have the required, some of the states which do not invest in development activities do not have the required human capital to do so. But again, we would want you to speak more to relating human capital development and general economic development and the well-being, and why the states cannot on their own surpass even the efforts of a federal government.
Yeah, you know, in ECOWAS, where I work for many years, we believe in what they call subsidiarity principle. And subsidiarity principle is any level of government should keep away from something that lower levels of government can do. So if local governments can handle primary schools and others, they leave it to them. If state governments can handle agriculture and that MSME related, because they're so close to them, leave it to them. So if federal government can do so, and then regional governments like ECOWAS will keep away from what national governments can do. So that's subsidiarity principle. There could be areas of overlap, but the main thrust is let them do what they are able to manage. It's like risk management. You allocate risk, you identify the risk, you allocate the risk, do risk allocation table, and allocate risk to the level that can best handle it. Now, insecurity is so paramount because you can't have development with insecurity. And if you look at since after the World War, from 1945 to today, 70-something years, the world has had peace because of deterrent and mutual assured destruction. You have it, I have it. You try, you will not be safe. You can try fighting me, but you won't be safe. You go to America, if till thy kingdom come, America is not prepared to lay their arms down. Everybody has it. So if you come knocking at somebody's door, he might shoot you down before the door opens. So if we know that security is so crucial to our economic development, let's have a state of emergency on security and say for the next 2 years, let's allow those who can bear arms to bear arms. And you see this is a criminal enterprise.
Yes.
And it will continue to expand as long as people are benefiting from that enterprise. But when you empower all levels, then we all carry gun and we'll see how it goes over a period of time. If you say 1-2 years, because it's an emergency situation, state of emergency doesn't last forever. Declare state of emergency for 2 years, and let vigilante carry some form of gun, and let the state government have some form of force. After all, in America, you have federal force, federal police, you have states, you have sheriffs, you have all that, they're coexisting. But the thing is that once you talk about state police, politicians will scream because they think that governor will use it to stop all of them. But they forget that the bigger picture is that nothing can happen. People can't go to farm. According to Africa Union, 80% of the basic food that we grow are grown by women. 80% of the processing of common things like gari and are done by women. And if you go to the rural market, 80% of the marketing of those rural food are done by women. They can't go to farm. They can't even go and plant and can't go and harvest. And the whole stage, you see them in camp, IDP camp. We can go on like this as a country. And if you look at inflation, we can say anything you want to say about inflation. If you look at the 5 components of inflation, food sub basket index cruises at 35%, always giving 5% gap to composite inflation. And there are a lot of hostages to that height where it is cruising. Because there are 100 million francophone countries surrounding Nigeria, from Cameroon, Chad, Mali, all of them surrounding us, that are actually buying our food. It's so cheap for them to get this food, because when you look at our currency and look at theirs, 7 years ago, 1 naira will buy 3 francs CFA. Today, it can't buy 1, it buys 0.7. So from their perspective, naira is 80% devalued, so cheap. So they don't need to go to farm anymore. Just buy the things from across the border. And the funny thing is that because of the ECOWAS treaty, you can't demand them to pay you in dollar. So they're using naira to settle naira. I don't even know how much of that naira is a fake naira. But what is going on the borders? But we don't know. Niger and Mali and the Burkina Faso say they are leaving ECOWAS. I don't know whether that will mean some border controls around there. I don't know. But that's not the prayer. Because after all, you have Africa Continental Free Trade. So they will still come back to the back door to do the business. But it's a very dangerous. But I tell you the background to this. An international division of labor places Nigeria and African countries as producers of raw materials, whether it is solid mineral or crude or agricultural products. And the division of labor says, send this up to us, we'll process them and bring it down to you to consume. That is why when economic partnership agreement was offered to us by Europe, they were wanting to get 80% of our import, which means they were not even expecting us to trade with Africans or trade with China or trade with America. So, but when your economy is import dependent, which is the consequence of that, I can tell you, just forget it. When we are ready, we will do the business. We are not going to get out of this, because every conceivable global headwind will affect you. It doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have, if you have shortage of crude or high price or shortage, it will affect you. If you have COVID, it will affect you. If you have mortgage prime crisis in America in 2008, it will affect you. If you have Russia, palaver. After all, Russia has oil, we have oil. They have gas, we have gas. But why are we, our knees on the ground? Because they control 40% of the gas to Europe. Europe is now at very high cost, and we're importing from Europe. Come on. We have to be proud of whatever we produce, patronize what we produce, and then eat what we produce, so that we'll have a chance of adding value and then controlling our destiny. It's going to be a very tough time ahead.
Tough time indeed, because...
Well, we'll return to these issues in just a moment, and particularly the question of human capital development. We'll do that. But first, let's take this short break, and when we return, the conversation will continue. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.